Good evening and welcome to POSTCAST, where the Jazz get kind of blown out tonight, actually, by the Denver Nuggets, 110-91. Tough one. I mean, back end of back-to-back coming into this building. One of the great home court advantages. It's what people have when they come into Utah on the back end of a back-to-back. We usually win those. Denver got it tonight, but this one really fell apart at the end of the first half, Ron, and at the beginning of the second half. The Jazz just didn't quite have the focus level that you need to have to win. You know, it's a cliche that you got to play 48 minutes of mentally focused basketball, but quite frankly, that is what happened tonight. Is they closed the second quarter kind of with some unengaged plays, and then maybe the greatest symbol of them all, Millsap just kind of throws an inbound pass at the beginning of the second half, not really focused, and sure enough, Lawson comes, steals it, takes it the other way, and they end up running out a 15-3 run, and that really did the night in.
You know, usually when there's a lack of concentration, there's a little fatigue, and maybe that was the case. But you know, closing out at the half had an excellent chance of being in a great position there going into the third quarter. Where did they go down? But down as many as 13 or 14 early in the third period rather, and then David, they fought back. Remember, they had a chance to be within 6 as Gordon goes in to dunk the basketball and holds on to the rim. It's a goaltending call. I mean, it's a good call there by the official. And then from that point on, the Nuggets just ran away from it. So I would like to have seen what would have happened if that wasn't the case.
Went from a 6-point game to an 11-point game by the time you opened the fourth quarter, and then it got away. That seemed to really deject the Jazz. The play, Gordon Hayward gets a fast break, goes to the rim to dunk in traffic. Ball is not all the way in. It's loose, and Gordon holds onto the rim, and the official deemed that by holding onto the rim, he assisted the ball to go in. Gordon probably didn't have anything else he could possibly do, but frankly, the official probably didn't have anything he could do.
It was just an unfortunate situation there because, you know, you're trying to protect yourself, first of all, and not end up getting hurt, and the ball just didn't go through the hole.
When I'm at Costa Koufis and Kenneth Fareed, you do not think of a particularly imposing front line. You do not think of a particularly good defensive front line. But for the second time in this building, these two guys completely dominated Al Jefferson and Paul Millsap. Tonight, the two of them combined for 23 points and 23 rebounds, while Al and Paul ended up going 8 of 25, and this is really the same script to what happened the first time. How is it that Costa Koufis, along with some help from JaVale McGee and others, caused such problems for the Utah Jazz?
Well, there's a couple of things. Now, you go back to the Phoenix Suns ball game. Favors, Millsap, Al Jefferson, 50 points, 27 rebounds.
It's a pretty good night.
The difference in the defense, the way they were defended tonight on the offensive end of the floor with the double team, forcing Al to pass the basketball and then being as active as Fareed is. I mean, that just makes the matchup just doesn't work for us anyway. But the key here is having something. You must move without the basketball if you're going to get double teamed, and Al has to find those guys.
All right, so that was going to be the next thing I was going to ask as I started to interrupt you there. Is the other night we opened the broadcast tonight. We were talking about player movement, not so much ball movement. That player movement causes ball movement, and the player movement the last 2 games have been so good. The player movement was less good tonight. Yeah. Is that something Denver did to them, or did the Jazz self-impose that?
Well, I think Denver had a lot to do with that. Again, they're double teaming, and then it's like they zone the backside of I noticed that Andre Miller, I mean, he would go down and double and didn't release. You know, once Al picked the basketball up, and you know, if you don't move your bodies and make cuts, set screens, and then you can set some back screens. I mean, there's some adjustments that can be made that would, you know, help the Jazz in this situation. But the game plan for the Denver Nuggets was to not let Al Jefferson beat them there and double teaming and just try to take the ball out of his hands.
It's interesting. I mean, tonight's obviously not a good defensive night when you allow 51% shooting and 110 points, but the offense is something that this team has been able to rely on, and that has been a little questionable as of late. And that's going to be very vital in this next 4-game stretch. A scuffling Dallas Maverick team, then heading to Charlotte to play a miserable Charlotte team, but you never know on the road. A very good Atlanta team and a really pretty playing very well hot Detroit team who's been able to do some things defensively with Andre Drummond. Those next 4 games, you better be able to get that offense rolling a little bit.
Well, and that will be a key too as well, because from that point on, the Jazz will have a pretty good homestand. I mean, they'll be able to sleep in their own beds constantly. They'll be able to practice, and I think the way the Jazz have, the schedule has been for the Jazz, they haven't had a lot of practice there as well. I mean, when I mean practice, I mean when you can go in and you can really work on things and not just having practice just to fine tune and try to keep your timing and that type of thing. You heard Jerry Sloan used to talk about practice all the time, and you don't realize how important having that practice time is for you.
You bring up a good point. Al Jefferson spent all that money on that bed, and he hasn't been able to be there very often as we've had to play 21 road games. I mean, that's something unfair that Al has not been able to use that bed as much as he should for the amount of money he paid for it with 21 road games. That's really
it's really been tough, but hopefully that the Jazz can, the next 4 ball games just hold their own, and maybe win 3 or 4 or something like that. And
well, you win 3 out of 4, you end up above 500. Win 2 of 2, you end up 1 below 500.
Yeah, and put themselves in a good situation here in the month of January.
Denver's done the same. They've played 22 road games. They are 10-2 at home. Jazz have played a few more games, I believe. One more game than Denver, maybe not. Denver has, and the Jazz have now played 21 road games. So, tough night tonight for the Jazz. They lose at 110-91. Probably successful trip. You get the one in Phoenix you need to get, and now you go get Denver in April when they come back. You split the season series with Denver. You guys all know I'm big into just isolate the series with that opponent. You've done what you need to do with Phoenix. You've split down in their building. You didn't get one here in Denver, so now you got to go win both of them at home against the Nuggets. That next matchup is in April. Remember, the Beat the Heat package is available for you. The Heat are in town January 14th. Make sure you get the tickets for that, plus you also get the Warrior tickets and a Subway $5 footlong. It's all for only $49, regularly $70. Call 325-2999 to get that package. Have a good night. We'll talk to you Monday against Dallas.